Yo, it's your boy Travis Bass here with Nick, and we are giving you Paydirt's NFL Week 8 recap. First and foremost, how was your Week 8?
It was fine. It was fun. It was. I felt really good going into the fourth quarter of that Bengals game. I felt.
Mm,
I felt really good there, but yeah, it definitely couldn't have been better. Could have been better, but we move on. Um, yeah, how's yours?
Absolutely brutal.
Mm,
Absolutely brutal. And it sucks too because we'll get to it, but I feel good about the process and where I ended up with a lot of spots. It was just not getting the right guys together.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
So,
know how that goes.
um,
Did you
but I
get? Did you
mean,
get burned? Did you get burned by the Bijan chalk?
yeah, so we can get right into it, right? Like I talk about this on the bakery too, but I essentially like start grouping players into like buckets, right? So I have like my running back pool, my receiver pool, my tight end pool, and then like my spend ups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um so running backs, as I've said time and time again, I'm really looking at like the cheapest guys who project well. So for me this week it was Chase Brown, DeAndre Swift, Derrick Henry, Brees Hall, right? That was the
Mm.
group. Uh, at receiver, right, it's kind of these cheap guys who are like genuine number one options on their team. So Devontae Smith with AJ Brown out, Olave, Ted McMillan, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle. There might be one guy I'm missing, but it was definitely that group of five,
Yeah.
right? I stay playing cheap tight ends, right? I generally don't spend up a tight end. So we had Kyle Pitts, Dalton Schultz, K. Dotton, right?
Yep.
And then my group of spend ups. So all my guys over 7K. So Achan, Barkley, you know, Jamar Chase, Bijan,
Mm-hmm.
CMC, Jonathan Taylor. So that's my pool, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
my stacks, like I had the Flacco stack, right? I had
Mm-hmm.
a Justin Fields, Brees Hall, some Stroud stacks, Tua stacks, but way too much Bijan, way too much CMC, and eating chalk Dalton Schultz made none of
Mm-hmm.
that matter. And then,
Yeah.
in terms of those pools, like I ended up going DeAndre Swift and like Derrick Henry too much over those other guys who all went nuts. Uh,
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had I did a lot of the DeAndre Swift thing. I didn't do the Derrick Henry thing.
which, to be honest, like DeAndre Swift, he only had 45 rushing yards, which sucks. But like ultimately, he ended with like 15 and change fantasy points, which isn't awful. But when comparatively, like Chase Brown, I think went for 25, and Brees Hall went for 35, and those are the other guys. Like I was basically putting him up against that. That hurts.
Yeah, I did a lot of Chase Brown, a lot of Chase Brown, but we'll get into
Talk to
that.
me about that. Like what led you to Chase Brown?
Okay, so I mean the way that I saw the slate just going from top down was there were a couple of things that stood out. Um, there are a lot of cheap quarterbacks,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought that there were two that had legitimate ceiling, and it's Flacco and Jackson Dart.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. Like I wasn't doing any of this Cam Ward nonsense. Like or or I was on Spencer Rattler early in the week, but then just looking at Sims leading up to Sunday, he just looked bad. Like he did not simulate well at all. Um, so what really led me to Chase Brown was just that. I mean, if there's one thing we can be reasonably sure of at this point is that the Bengals are going to score. They're going
Mm-hmm.
to score points. Now, I I played Chase Brown instead of these guys like Swift and Hall and all that, just because my whole strategy was going to revolve around the Bengals. So I think the Jets are ass.
I mean,
They just
not to be
suck.
results oriented, but that that offensive performance in that game would say yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so that was kind of my whole thing was I wanted to get as much Bengals exposure as I could. And so I did a lot of, I play in these massive fields. So I did a lot of Flacco, Chase Brown, Fant, Flacco, Chase, Higgins, Chase Brown, a lot of these big Bengals stacks because you could get the whole offense.
Yep.
And it wasn't really detrimental to do so. Like price wise. And they were also one of the only teams on the slate where everybody was clearly underpriced. Everybody, like across the board.
Yeah.
You could argue Fant was probably appropriately priced, but he's not a significant piece. So like that, and they had a big total. It was not a horrible spread, but the Bengals defense always gives up points.
Right.
That's really what led me to that spot was mostly the prices. The prices, the offense, their opponent, the spot, the spot, everything. And with Jackson Dart, what really led me there was, and that obviously didn't work. The Cam Scatterboo thing was really unfortunate. But
I mean, to be fair, Jackson Dart did still finish top 10 fantasy scoring QB.
Yeah, he did. I mean, the whole idea of playing Jackson Dart was he was cheap, and it was a way to play the Eagles that didn't involve spending $7,000 for Jalen Hurts and $8,000 for Saquon.
Yep.
Now Jalen Hurts ended up being in a lot of winning lineups, but I don't regret necessarily not playing a ton of him. I got some of him. I didn't get none.
Yeah, and I played both sides of that game.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. And then the third team that I really went with was the Colts, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was all, the Giants I wanted to be on the other side of the Eagles, but the Colts and the Bengals had really high totals, were in really good matchups, and I felt like they had the strongest chance to score a bunch of points out of anybody.
Yep. I think that was honestly a miss by B. As I noted, I went with a lot of Bijan, a lot of CMC. I didn't end up on a ton of Jonathan Taylor. I had some, but not nearly enough. But to your point, like they were projected to score a bunch of points, and it was Michael Pittman. That's what I was thinking of, like with those receivers. And so when I'm looking at like these, receiver options, I should have thought more about that of like, hey, like if I'm not playing Taylor, like they're going to score points here. Like I think their implied total was like close to 30, if not more.
Yeah, somewhere around
something insane. Right. So if I'm not playing Taylor, then just playing Michael Pittman, like as one of my receiver one-offs, would have made a ton of sense. So that was one thing I was looking back on. I was like, I probably should have like made sure to have more exposure to the Colts offense in some regard.
Yeah, I mean, I had 35% Jonathan Taylor, but it wasn't nearly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, then it, and then the other thing was that playing, at least on the main slate, playing Taylor in the Colts stack, like just didn't make a lot of sense.
I flirted with that. Like when, as I'm like building stuff Sunday morning, I flirted with like the Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor stack, but just Pittman, like the pricing worked, but with where Daniel Jones was priced at and with Jonathan Taylor being the most expensive player on the state, it just puts you in some uncomfortable positions where like I didn't really want to play Darnell Mooney or like, somebody like, or I didn't really want to play like one of the Houston receivers to make it work. So
yeah, Darnell Mooney was the guy that really killed me. But
that whole offense, because I had a Atlanta stack.
Yeah.
Like just as a hedge off like the Bijan
Yeah,
chalk. Like, yo, if he fails, like it's gonna be Kirk Cousins like throwing the ball. But
yeah.
good God, was he awful?
If you if you tell me you told me in advance that Darnell Mooney was going to be 10 to 12% in large field tournaments, I would absolutely go way over the field on him again.
Yeah.
Like that number, I thought that number was crazy.
Although
But
I did tell you that, like in the
yeah,
Discord, I said like the
yeah,
ownership is gonna go to Bijan and Kyle
yeah,
Pitts.
yeah. But and then the other thing, I'll just touch on one last point with the Colts. I didn't love Michael Pittman. Like I thought he was fine. He ended up in some of my stacks, but he didn't end up in. I had quite a few that did not have him.
Mm-hmm.
Where I went with like Daniel Jones, Warren, and Alec Pierce, or Daniel Jones, Warren, Alec Pierce, Downs.
Right.
Like, yeah, I felt like that 4K receiver range had some like really volatile guys, but like, you could save a fair amount of money because unlike you, I wanted to play Tyler Warren at tight end.
Mm-hmm.
If I wasn't playing Jonathan Taylor, that's what I wanted to do.
That makes sense.
Like, so yeah, that let's talk about Atlanta. First of all, this team is a joke. I mean, like that Miami defensive line has spent most of the year getting pushed back 5 yards. Like, how can you not run the ball? What are you doing?
It was embarrassing. I had secondhand embarrassing watching that.
Yeah, and I mean, as a Vikings fan, I still have mad love for Kirk Cousins, but boy, that might be it for him.
Yeah, the only other quarterback that pissed me off more was Andy Dalton.
Oh yeah, I didn't get on the Ted McMillan train. Like I'm not falling for this crap. Like these Panthers, like no. I did play Xavier Legette though.
Ted McMillan ended up being fine. I think he finished with like 19 fantasy points, but like overall, their offense just in general was just abysmal.
Yeah, if I was going to play one of those guys, I wanted it to be somebody really cheap.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Like, but again, that was my whole strategy and that's what my Sims really liked, is going with these guys in the 4Ks rather than these, some of these guys in the 5Ks. Like, they really like Chris Olave, but like my Sims really did not. They didn't think that Devonta Smith as a one-off was a great play. So, that kind of, and I wanted to pay up at running back.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the point of playing the cheaper stacks. But, in retrospect, maybe I should have done more of like the Breece Hall thing. But, I mean, yeah.
It is what it is. All right, let's take a look at the contest analyzer over here at Paydirt DFS, .com, one of the many great tools James McCool has built over here. So come check us out at PaydirtDFS.com. This is the contest analyzer. We're looking at the top 1% of lineups. This is from the mid-season millie they had. It was, I think, just over $1,000 buy-in. Shout out to Jeremy King. Gave it a good run. He had a good finish in here. Didn't quite take it home, but he definitely crushed. So one guy that I know he played who stands out right away, James Cook, 60% of the top 1% of lineups. With
I didn't get much of him.
I did it because the Carolina defense hasn't been that bad, and particularly they haven't been that bad against the run. So for them to give up 200 rushing yards to James Cook, I was just like, yo, what is happening? Like, I get it. Like, Buffalo, is a good team. Like, they've been underperforming for sure. But this is still, a team with Super Bowl aspirations and all of that. They were heavy favorites. So, like, I'm not, like, completely floored that, like, James Cook had a good game. but like obviously this was like the ceiling outcome, right? Um,
I was very surprised for a number of reasons, but the biggest reason being that when they're way ahead and in control of a game, like they don't normally let him run in the second half.
yeah.
Like
I mean, granted,
they normally,
they did end up taking him out and giving
yeah,
the other running back run. And you could see James
yeah,
Cook was pissed. He wanted to keep going, but
Kentucky guy, Ray Davis.
yeah.
Yeah. Like Ray Davis. I don't know if Ty Johnson's still there, but
Right.
yeah. So yeah, that was like the one thing on this slate that like really set me back was not having very much James Cook. Like
Yeah.
not having very much James Cook or Brees Hall like really kind of set me back. But I had a strategy and I stuck with it. So
Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Brees Hall, like the top four guys, like as far as like their exposure rates in the top 1% of lineups and was James Cook, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, and Brees Hall, right? So these four running
yep.
backs. And the thing that's interesting too, if we go a bit further down, you got Jamar Chase there. So when we start talking about the spend up guys, right? Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, you see those guys show up over 30% of the time in the top 1%. So you can see there's a pretty clear like fade or like at least underweight on Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson here. You do see Kyle Pitts at 42%. So really looks like, a lot of those players that end up in the top 1%, like their strategy was like, just take the cheapest option, lower opportunity cost, you could say, at the tight end spot, playing Kyle Pitts there.
Yeah.
You're going to get
Well,
some exposure.
yeah. I mean, their strategy was contrarian running backs so I can play Bo Nix.
Yep.
Which
what's interesting to me is not necessarily Bo Nix, but the fact that he was not paired with Cortland Sutton and that the majority of these stacks have him with Troy Franklin.
I had I had either 10 or 12% Bo Nix. I think he was like my fourth highest owned quarterback or something. Yeah, this is my fourth highest owned quarterback. I did not have a single stack with him with Sutton.
Talk about that. Why not?
A couple of things. There's a huge price discrepancy between Sutton and the other receivers, okay?
Yep.
So Sutton, is no longer 5,200 or 5,300. He's now 6,200.
Yep.
And then and on this particular slate, I think he was one of the 10 most expensive receivers. So because of that price gap and because I wanted to pay for running backs and I wanted to pay for Jamar Chase.
Yep.
I didn't want to spend $6,000 on Cortland Sutton. Like if Jamar Chase is 8,000, he should be 9,500.
Yep.
Like if the Bengals had the ball at all in the second half, like he would have had 25 targets in that game. Like maybe more. Like just laughable. But
yeah.
I just didn't feel that Bo Nix's I didn't feel like Cortland Sutton's ceiling and Bo Nix's ceiling were necessarily like totally tied together.
That's fair.
So yeah.
Let's take a look at the stacks and let's see, like top 1%. So, using the contest analyzer, you can look at players overall. You can look at stack size, the stacks used, the stack sizes. So sure enough, like 30% exposure to Denver stacks. They were the chalkiest stack on the slate, like by far. So 17% exposure overall to Denver stacks. Top 1%, like basically doubled, the field in that regard. Yep. Slightly similar thing with Colt stacks. Then we got the Jet stacks. which I imagine was probably just like some combination of Fields, Brees Hall, and or Mason Taylor.
Yeah.
Um, Philly stacks, right? A lot of that was your Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goddard. Houston
Hmm.
stacks, Buffalo, interesting, and then Cincinnati. And I do like a lot of these did come up in Sims. I can tell you that for sure. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I got some Bo Nix, but what is that like the it's like 75% of slates this year, like the chalk stack is one or something like that.
right, right. It's yeah. It's not quite NBA level, but it's
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
If we
And like,
go specific positions, right? Take a look
yeah.
at quarterback.
That was the other thing I did too. Is I did quite a bit of quite a few Dallas stacks too.
Man, them boys stink.
Yeah, they sucked. They sucked, but that was the other contrarian team that I really liked.
So, yeah, you got Bo Nix, Jalen Hurts. A lot of people like. Oh wait, this is exposure overall. Sorry. Uh, top 1%. There we go. Bo Nix, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Joe Flacco. Like you see, it goes right in line with the stacks. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Stroud, and then Cousins. Some people still manage. If you manage to still find your way into the top 1% with Kirk Cousins, like shout out to you. That is
Mm-hmm.
actually impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's something. But
Um, as we said, same with the running backs. Like Derrick Henry shows up here, Achan. So, that's why I was saying a lot of this, like, I'm not even necessarily uh, mad at my process. Like, I do think, you see Brees Hall, 6,100, Derrick Henry, 6, Chase Brown, 5,400. That lower range of running backs still is solid. And then, Saquon and Jonathan Taylor, for me personally, I just separate like those guys into their own tier of like where am I spending up.
mm-hmm.
Um, so it's encouraging to still see that. If we hop over to receiver, probably going to be a lot of alignment with the stacks like Troy Franklin, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney still showed up in 26% of the top 1% of lineups in this
That's
contest. This
yeah.
is a side effect, right? We are
Mm-hmm.
looking at the midseason Millie, which was over $1,000 buy-in. There's a lot of sharp players in this contest. They are going to eat more chalk. Like he came in almost 40% owned in this contest.
Yep.
That is drastically different than if you were just playing like the regular $20 milli maker.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
so, but that's a good lesson for contest selection, right? And contest
Yes.
size and knowing like who you're playing against. If you are playing a higher dollar contest, a smaller field contest, you don't need the nuts. You can play some of these chalk guys. You can eat more chalk. If they, don't do great, it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to bury you.
Yeah. And I'm always I'm usually, well, not always, but I'm usually of the opinion that the chalk to eat is on the cheaper end.
Yes, I would rather eat value chalk than,
The chalk to eat is on the cheaper end, like fifty
you
percent, like 50% Bijan Robinson was just like,
yeah,
I mean, I sat at the field on that, and
yep,
I stared at that number, and I tried to get it down, but I couldn't get it down. Like,
yeah. Um, so that is what it is, man. Troy Franklin, a couple of cheap guys, Raheed Shaheed. So you can definitely see some people paying down receiver. And again, like going back to like my personal process and everything, like I'm looking at this group of receivers, right? they're all guys between 5K and 6K. Like I was spot on with that. I can't even be mad with that, right? You take your lumps with that. Definitely had the right pool of guys, the right price range of guys. You just had kind of these outlier performance where it was really just Waddle and Pittman that did their thing there in that range, and then everybody else was kind of meh. Um, Jamar Chase buying, a lot of exposure there. That made sense to me. He was one of my primary spend ups. Like he was a guy where I was like, it's probably I even when I was doing the Sims and like looking at optimals, he was a guy that popped up a lot. Probably because of that price, right? He has similar ceiling to those running backs, like those higher end guys, but just came
Yeah.
in cheaper, right?
Yeah, he was my highest exposed player.
Yeah.
75%.
Like you just got it. Like you got to always consider a guy like Jamar Chase. To a certain extent, the same can be said for Justin Jefferson, JSN. Right, these are guys who have legit 20-point fantasy. I'm not even gonna say upside because their upside is higher,
Yeah.
but like they can get you 20 fantasy points
Yeah.
without getting into the end zone. They can
Yeah,
get that off of catches and yards.
Yeah. But here's the difference. And this is the other thing that I didn't touch on with when I was talking about the Bengals is since Joe Flacco came in, the Bengals are playing at the fastest pace in the league, and it's by a lot. Like people were talking about how fast the Saints were playing. The Bengals are playing significantly faster.
Yeah, they're just getting a lot of plays off.
They're just getting a lot of plays off. So like, if they're running a lot of plays, like, and that was the other logic for playing four of them is like, if the Bengals are controlling the clock, Jamar Chase is just going to have a ton of targets.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's going to have so many targets, and like these guys like Jefferson specifically, and I love Jefferson to death, but like he just doesn't have the ceiling that Chase does because he's just never going to get the targets.
Yeah. Because guys like Jordan Addison are just going to get all the targets. I'm not bitter at all about that.
Not that you have to worry about that anymore because they're not going to be completing very many passes the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well,
but
RIP.
Yeah. People giving them crap for not keeping Sam Darnold. Like, how would you propose to do that? They didn't have any money.
Yeah, it was a tough spot to be in for sure.
The only solution was they had to trade Jefferson.
Which obviously, right?
That's
obviously
you're never going to you will not get a fair return.
Right.
Like he's one of those players where it's going to be like trading an NBA superstar where you're just not going to get a return that's commensurate with his actual value.
So that was week 8 in a nutshell. Any other thoughts you have on week 8? Reflections, things we can apply.
You stayed away from like Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I just didn't really see a need to go up at tight end this week. Outside of Daniel Jones stacks, right? Like I was considering, like I actually had a rule, like if lineup does not contain Daniel Jones, like don't play Tyler Warren.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I knew I wanted the money, like at other positions. Like I really didn't like the 4K range of receivers, like the punt receivers. Like I know a couple of them got there.
Yeah.
And right, I didn't either. So it was like I would rather take the tight end in that range and be able to pay up as opposed to like paying up at tight end and having to take one of those guys at receiver. So that's kind of where my mind was with that.
Yeah.
With that. And then, even with running back, aside from Chase Brown, who was just underpriced at 5,400, like everybody else was, roughly 6K, right? You had DeAndre Swift at 5,900 and then Breece Hall at 6,100. And then it got kind of weird with the pricing. Like Rashad White was 64. I think Javante and James Cook were both 67. So you didn't have a ton of cheap options at running back. Like I definitely was not going to be going into like the Ramondre Stevenson, Travion
No.
Henderson like
No.
tier, you know.
No.
So yeah, that's all that was. Just it was just a pricing thing for me of like
if
I just didn't
if
want
I
to
was going to
sacrifice
duck
that
down, if I was going to duck down into that tier, and this is only because I play huge fields, like the only reason I would have done that is, to be honest, is to play Tyler Algier. I didn't do that.
He might have been
like,
the only guy that got there.
All I'm saying is like I didn't do that, but that would have made sense. It would have made sense to me if somebody did that.
Yeah.
Like, so. But yeah, man, the Falcons, like, can they fire everybody?
Listen, they need
like, I mean, that was just awful. Like,
they said Kirk Cousins is starting again next week, apparently. They've already came out and said like he's most likely starting next week. And this is the situation. Are they on I am assuming they're on the main slate next week.
Look, Mike McDaniel no longer favored for next head coach fired. It's Morris. It's that guy.
I mean, it makes sense.
Awful. that was the worst.
I got it between him and your boy from the Browns.
Oh no, he's gonna get.
But I don't think they're gonna fire him.
They should.
I think they need to, but I don't think they will.
No, they don't have a quarterback. Like when they had a quarterback, they were fine with him. Like, you know, for his sake, I hope they fire him. That's because
I mean, they also like now they don't have a running back either because Judkins is like day to day with a shoulder injury. So,
well, didn't they draft like 5 other running backs?
Probably that tracks. That seems on brand for the
Dylan
Browns.
Sampson, like
who was like a scat back from Tennessee. Like, what are we doing?
What is his name? Jerome Ford is there.
He's still there.
Yeah, but anyways, yes. So no, there really isn't anything else that I wanted to touch on.
All right. Like I said, I think for me, like a lot of this came down to like, process over results. I still like am really happy with like kind of the process that I've set out for myself. And, even though I didn't necessarily land on the right guys, I was in the right range, had those guys in the pool of guys I was looking at. So, still encouraged in that regard. It's, we got plenty of weeks left for things to fall together. Just keep grinding.
Yep, there you go. That's all you can do.
And, content schedule for this week. This was the recap. We will have the bakery coming out on Thursday with myself and Jason. We will have Slate of Mind. That's Hess's show that he puts out. Slate Talk on Saturday with the boss man, James McCool, and Pablo, if he's not on his yacht. Thoughts and notes write-up coming out Sunday morning. James puts that together. And then we do have the newsletter. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, it is free. That goes over some, stuff throughout the week. We have different bets in there, some of the favorite bets from the betting models over at PaydirtDFS.com. So a lot of content coming your way in regards to this upcoming Week 9 NFL slate. Other than that, if you are in Showdown tonight, best of luck to you. Paydirt darling Kareem Hunt, who was popping in the models, did get a touchdown. So we'll see how my lineups are looking with that. But with that, this is Tribe. That was Nick. Peace.